Welcome inside episode 614 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains, and the World Juniors are here. But Team Canada has to wait until today to begin their quest for gold. However, all other Sens prospects were already in action.
Yeah, Ross, 4 other Sens prospects in action as the World Juniors kicked off yesterday, and all 4 of them winners to start the tournament. And we know Pierre Dorion loves winners.
Yes, he does. So we'll tell you what each player did and give you a little preview on Team Canada. Dave Cameron, head coach of the Canadiens, already finding an affinity for one of the Sens prospects. All that, plus we've got a SensCentral Citizen today, a fantastic conversation with Becca. Hope you enjoy that and more. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen on this Wednesday, August 10th. We are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube, where the best way you can help the show grow is to subscribe to the Locked On Senators channel, like the video by clicking the thumbs up, and leave us a comment as well. The comment we want to know is, are you much more worried about the Boston Bruins now that they have Patrice Bergeron back, David Krejci back, a year removed, and Pavel Zacha in the fold? We're going to touch on that a little bit later on in the show, Pilsy, but the World Juniors are here. You mentioned all Sens prospects that played yesterday were winners. Which one stood out most to you?
For me, it's got to be Roby Jarventie. I mean, this guy was all over the ice. If you missed the game like I did, you have to follow our good buddy at Liam's Martian. He's been clipping the games as he does. He's in mid-season form, and the season hasn't even started yet. Lots of great Jarventie clips, and he did get an assist yesterday as well, so you got to love that.
Yeah, I was going to say great Jarventie clips. I even sent Roby the one. You said he was your standout player. Maybe he should have stood up on the bench as he took a little backwards tumble having a seat. But he also put a feather of a pass right on the tape of Brad Lambert for that power play assist. And the overhead angle was awesome because he's playing a little pitch and catch with, I think it was Himo Salmi, the defenseman there. They were moving back and forth on the half wall, and then all of a sudden opens up a seam. Lambert slides into it. Boom, hits him with a great pass. So awesome to see Roby passing his full World Juniors output from 2 years ago,
kidding.
Right? So that's a great little bit of confidence for him. We know he's a year and a half or 2 seasons, but I hesitate to call the COVID season a full one for Belleville, but he's got 2 full pro seasons under his belt. So I think that it is expected of him to be one of the better players. However, man, Finland's top line is so nasty. Rivonen, Ratti, and Kemmel. They've combined on a few nasty goals. So Finland wins 6-1, and that one goal against, 20 saves for our boy Leevi Merilainen, and a couple partial breaks, a breakaway. This guy, doesn't matter. If he's in all alone, he's going to stop it.
Yeah, and Leevi Merilainen had a great game too. It's going to be interesting to see how often he gets used the rest of the tournament. He should be the starter from what it seems like,
I think he's the dude, but in their pre-tournament game, he played really well. However, the other guy, don't even know his name. I think he's undrafted. He came in and put up a 45 save performance. So I don't know. They'll give him a chance, but I think
Cola is the other goalie's name. I thought Yoel Blomqvist was going to be around, but
I don't know. Yeah, not sure what the deal is with him, but no, I'd say Merilainen is the hands down starter for the Finns, who had a great start. Now, albeit it is against Latvia, who the Canadiens will play later today on Wednesday. But great start for the 2 Finns. I think they were certainly the standouts, but of course, friend of the show, we got to talk about the K train, Tyler Kleven. Hashtag Nodak Sens, you Sens A as well. Another hashtag going out. And I know this game was out of reach as well. The Americans were up. I mean, it was 5-0. Germany got a little garbage time goal at the end there. So 5-1, the States wins. It was in control the whole game. However, although he was listed as a third pair defenseman going into the game, only one American defenseman played more than Tyler Kleven. So that's a nice little feather in his cap early in the tournament. He played 16 minutes and 44 seconds.
Nice, yeah, and Tyler Kleven doing K-Train things. Again, the Leems Martian clipping some big hits, and I love when players go to hit Tyler Kleven and they think they've got the upper hand. No. They just bounce off him, and he does a great job kind of with that reverse hit as well, protecting the puck. Just a strong presence on the blue line like we expected him to be with this Team USA. So I'm excited to see what Kleven has in store here, and yeah, another victory for a Sens prospect.
Only defenseman who played more than him was Luke Hughes, who had a goal and an assist. And get this, Luke Hughes took 28 shifts in the game. Nobody else took more than 21 on defense.
Yeah, wow.
Nyes had 24, but they just put Luke Hughes over the boards all the time. What was he, 4th overall pick in 2021? He's going to be a stud, and you got to respect that. But Kleven played more than the captain, Brock Faber, who we talked about being a pretty big X factor in this tournament. However, again, the asterisk is the fact that this game was out of reach after. I mean, it was 2-0 after the first period, but it certainly felt even more than that. I'm trying to find the shots on goal here, but Pilsy, they weren't pretty if you were Team Germany. I just can't wrap my head around what this Germany team would look like if JJ Peterka was there, if Lucas Reichel there. Oh, yeah. Tim Stützle, still eligible for this tournament, Pilsy. To me, that was just mind-blowing.
Yeah, exactly. That's unfortunate for Team Germany. A lot of guys, their gem prospects missing from this one, but that's the way it goes with World Juniors in August.
100%. I mean, the only of the big three defensive prospects in terms of Sanderson, Power, and Edvinsson is Simon Edvinsson's playing for Sweden, but then he got hurt. They said he left for precautionary reasons, but he left the pre-tournament game with an injury, and that's kind of the whole reason why a lot of these top prospects aren't going. They don't want to risk injury ahead of what is a huge training camp for all those guys coming up in September. Of course, here at Locked On Senators, we will have all the coverage your heart desires leading up to Sens training camp. A couple interviews we'll tease later on in the show, but Pilsy, we can't forget about the newest Sens prospects in the tournament, Tomas Hamara, and this was actually probably the best game. It was the only game I watched start to finish, but it was also the closest game. So we mentioned 5-1 US beats Germany, 6-1 Finland beats Latvia, but 5-4 Czechia. I got to get that. I know our Prague sickos got us on lock here over, I don't think he's in Prague anymore, but we've got the pronunciation on lock. What was I calling it before? It was so bad.
I was saying Czechia, which
I think that's what I was saying too. Yeah.
Yeah. So we both were guilty. Thank you for the pronunciation change. And we're doing our best. We wouldn't intentionally say it wrong. So now that we've been corrected,
we got it.
Czechia.
They get the win, and they were down 2-0 early in the game, despite out shooting them.
I was going to say they really should not have been down at that game. I think the shots were like 20-6 and they were down 2-0. Like the Slovak goalie was just on fire.
Yeah.
And, but then once Czechia got one goal in, the floodgates kind of opened here. But let's stick with Tomas Hamara here. Very tough start for him. -1. I believe it was his first shift.
Yeah. I'd say tough game.
Yeah. And then another tough spot where he's kind of the guy that gets turned around in that second goal, and then a third goal where he's not able to clear the puck from in front of the net. So it wasn't a great chunk for him. He did have an assist. They didn't record it as an assist because
we're counting it though. Is there a conspiracy against Sens prospects? Remember it was
the
Drake
Batherson one?
Yeah,
we need to bring that back up again. Yeah, that was
our boy Sens prospects.
That was great. But yeah, Hamara sends a point shot to the net. It hits off a Slovak stick, and I guess you can kind of say it was possession because
you can't.
He slows it down and he almost gets it, and then the Czech player then recovers it and then passes over and scores. So it should have been a secondary assist, but the IHF hates Sens prospects. It's no.
Hey, that's what it comes down to.
Right?
Yeah, this game from a shot perspective was wildly.
Thank God the Czechia actually ended up winning this. If they let this one get away from them, that would have been absolutely brutal.
Yeah, fair enough. And when you're looking at Hamara, he played 17 minutes and 29 seconds, had 2 shots on goal, and was +1 at the end of the day. So good on him for
Oh,
bouncing
wow.
back from
Yeah.
being an early -2 in this game. So lots of Sens prospects in action, including today, where we get Ridley Greig and Zach Ostapchuk. Ostapchuk scored, or I should say they scored off a Zach Ostapchuk rush in the pre-tournament game against Sweden. But he goes from the extra forward to the third line, where we can just call it the Sens unit, with Ridley Greig at center, Zach Ostapchuk at left wing, and then they got William Dufour on the right side. He was out of the queue. He's an Islanders prospect. Guy scored 4 goals in the Mem Cup in one game. So
Peace.
he's got the finishing aspect locked down. But you can just tell 6'3", 210 pounds. He can fly. He's a coach's dream, Zach Ostapchuk. There was no way he was finishing this tournament as the 13th forward.
No, and he made it very clear that he wasn't going to allow that, right? Like, I saw a Mark Masters article saying that his skate busted, and he didn't have any backup skates, so he used a teammate's skate, and he was flying out there. It doesn't matter what he's got on his feet. Zach Ostapchuk, he's going to be flying out there, and putting him on a line with Ridley Greig. Not only are you getting size and speed, but you're getting some grit on that line as well. As we saw Ridley Greig. The Riddler is back in full effect. I mean, he never left. I shouldn't say he's back, because he lays out a massive hit on a Swedish player, and then after talking about it, just has his massive smile, being like, yeah, I like to play physical. Yeah, he's trying to hold it back, but he literally can't. It's like when you're watching like SNL characters trying to hold character, and then they break and they laugh a little. That's what's happening to Ridley here. He's like, I shouldn't be laughing about that big hit, but I cannot help myself.
How do you like that producing? I already had it all locked in.
That's well done, Ross. You're in mid-season form as well.
Oh my God. Hey, if anyone wants to learn more about the chaotic energy that Ridley Greig brings, go check out either of his 2 interviews with us. We'll get him back on sooner rather than later. He is so funny. He lives to be a menace on the ice. And it was a super clean hit. Keep your head up when you're behind the net. But to be fair, both defensemen were already angled, and he's just like, no, you still have your head down. You're not going to make a play with this puck. Nobody's in front of the net. I'm just going to come and finish you up. So,
yeah.
Ridley Greig, man, agent of chaos. We know he's got to toe that line, but if he does, man, this guy is going to be just an absolute gem at the next level. So Team Canada in action later on today against Latvia. That's it for the World Junior Report. Later on in the show, we're going to touch on those Boston Bruins. Seems like the team most Sens fans pointed to, saying, we're going to knock your team out of that playoff spot. But since they've made a reacquisition, a re-signing, well, 2, I guess, because they traded for Zaka but didn't have him signed. So we'll touch on what that means, and if Sens fans should take a deep breath and then look at Boston's roster, and maybe are we underestimating them? We'll touch on that. But first, we've got our SensCentral Citizen. We're ecstatic to bring on Becca. Great conversation with her. A little bit different than what we usually do, but she is a diehard Sens fan. She's got her own podcast as well. We get into how it started, what it's about, and a whole lot more. It was a really enlightening interview. I loved it.
Yeah, it was great to talk with Becca. We had reached out to her quite a while ago, and this had been in the works for a while, so it was great to get her on. She was very excited to join us, which is always fun. And yeah, she has her own podcast. You'll hear all about it in the interview. I don't want to spoil too much here. But Ross, should we get to a quick ad read before we swing it over to Becca?
Yeah, tell me all about it.
All right. So what you need to be doing, guys, for this off season to stay healthy in the summer is you need to be getting your vitamins and treating your body right. And the best way to do that is with Athletic Greens and their product AG1. So what is this stuff, you might be asking? With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and more to help you start your day off right. All it is one scoop of AG1 in your cup of water to start your day, and you're going to be feeling so much better. It supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, aging, all of those things you can help yourself with AG1. It's lifestyle friendly. So whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, It's all good, contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything. And take it from me, it still manages to have great flavor. It supports better sleep quality and recovery, so you can feel more alert when you wake up in the morning. And it's less than $3 a day, so you're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than whatever coffee habit you have. It's cheaper than getting all different supplements. You're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance. So to make things easy, guys, you can go to Athletic Greens, and they're going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance from Athletic Greens.
All right, now let's get to this week's SensCentral Citizen. It's Becca. All right, now we welcome on this week's SensCentral Citizen. We're extremely excited to welcome on Becca. You can follow her on Twitter at Unashamed Alc, ALC. She's also the host of the Unashamed Alcoholic Podcast, and that will lead into a story we'll get to later. But Becca, welcome to Locked On Senators. How are you doing today?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, this is like, I don't want to be dramatic, but a dream come true to come and chat with you guys.
You just cut a promo for us. That's going to be in the intro to every one of our shows now. Thank you. We're really happy to have you. Been following your story on Twitter for so long. And are you in Ottawa right now? Where are we talking to you from?
Yeah, I'm across the river in Gatineau. So
Perfect.
I'm a Sens fan in Quebec.
Awesome. Hey, what do the Sens need to do to get more into the Quebec fan base? Heavy hitting question right off the bat.
Yeah, that's a good one. Actually, Mathieu Joseph said something about kind of along those lines the other day. And I just thought that's so awesome because like reaching into like he was talking about the kids, and reaching out to like the French speaking kids. And I think that there's so many fans just on the other side of the river, especially the kids who can feel that connection to like a French speaking player. And I think so something along those lines, like he's got the right mindset with that because my kids are Sens fans. I mean, they have no choice, but they're Sens fans and they love him. They love him because he's French. My kids are French speaking. So, things like that, just like these little connections within the community. We've got, Sens rinks over here. So these little things to build up, not just shutting it down because we're on the other side of the bridge.
Especially with LeBreton coming up, right? You're even closer.
Yeah,
Pilsy
exactly.
too. Hey, what better time than when the Habs are in 32nd place too to steal a few of those francophone fans? No.
Yeah, you can come on over, hop on the bandwagon. We'll welcome everyone, and let's get this back to how we always start our SensCentral Citizens. Ross hit you with the hard hitting question right off the bat. You nailed it out of the park. Now let's open things up a little lighter here. How and when did you become a Sens fan, Becca?
Well, I grew up in Belleville and, we
Awesome.
had the Belleville Bulls and, now there's the Belleville Sens. So that's great. But I grew up kind of like within a bit of a hockey community, but not a huge fan until I moved to Ottawa for Carleton, went to Carleton University and then just stayed here and sort of started getting into it a little bit more, like pretty cool. We have an NHL team in the city here. And then lightly fell in love with Chris Neil and still he's my soulmate. He doesn't know that, but he's my soulmate. And so started kind of getting into it when I met my ex-husband. We would go out to like the rink, on days where they were practicing, game days, and like wait in like minus 30 degrees in the winter for, take a picture with them after they would come outside, and they would all stop. Like they were all so nice. So like it was like 15 years ago. So that kind of, again, back to like the idea of the community and being nice to fans. And like, that really helps people feel connected and like want to follow you and be a fan. So it kind of grew from there where, I started going to games more often and, I've got my jersey, and, would go find Chris Neil whenever he was, I'm sure there's a restraining order out there against me that I don't know about.
Just protection. No, it's all
Yeah. But that's kind of like how it was kind of a slow process. There's nothing better in the winter than on a Saturday afternoon or evening than watching a game on TV. And I, kind of got the kids into it now. And again, they don't have a choice, but I find it's a really nice family activity and it's close. Like it's in our city, it's close.
Yeah, 100%. I love that story. Just doing some quick math there. You said 15 years ago, which would give me the impression that was right around when the team was at their best, right? Making playoff runs, finishing in first place. Who were some of the players from that team outside of Chris Neil that really helped you fall in love with this team?
Is there anyone outside of Chris Neil that we need to talk about? No. So
fair.
actually, it's funny, on my dating profile, I even put that, like, in my mind, I'm married to most of the 2010-11 set.
Shout out Ryan Shannon.
Yes.
Yeah, there's like, there's all of it. It's just like, I just love, they were just so nice and sweet. Condra and Winchester and, Chris Neil. And then you got Alfie. I mean, all these guys were it was just such a great time. It was like, what a time to be alive. On the jersey I have, I have the patch for like the Eastern Conference like championships.
Yeah.
So like that's, and I'll give you one guess of who my jersey is.
I'm gonna go with a Flesherton native, number 25,
6th round pick.
Exactly. So
awesome.
It's honestly, like that entire era was so great. And now, I feel like we're kind of heading into like a really great time now too. So I might have to update, depending on how things go, update those dating profiles.
Well, hey, I don't want to put Chris Neil on the hot seat, but is there any player on this team or this edition of the team that might challenge to get a jersey on that you'd wear?
I don't know. I can't, I really love Mathieu Joseph. Like, I just think he's like knocked out of the park, but obviously, Austin Watson's like got a little part of my heart.
We have to get to that 100%. So actually, what better time than right now to get to it? So let's start with your story, the Unashamed Alcoholic Podcast. How did it start? And then how did this meeting come up with Austin Watson?
The podcast, it's funny that it started because of kind of a link to the Sens too. So I got divorced in 2020 and was living on my own and kind of just keeping this being sober a secret because it was kind of shameful and embarrassing and all this stuff. It'd been like 3 years at that point that I'd stopped drinking, but I hadn't really been public about it. And then that fall, so I'm by myself and kind of living this new life. And that fall, there was like a night in September that I saw Bobby Ryan did a little speech about accepting the Masterton Trophy and like kind of talked about what he'd gone through that February. And I was like, that February, like in 2020, I wrote an anonymous letter to the editor of the Ottawa Sun, thanking Bobby Ryan for sharing his story and saying that you had all these fans out there who still love you. You're part of a club that no one wants to join, but are forever grateful to be part of. And we all still love you. But I had written it anonymously because I'm like, I can't say I'm an alcoholic, then everyone will know. That's ridiculous. And then in September, he talks about it again as he's accepting this. And I just thought, if he can talk about this and I'm supporting him, why can't I talk about this and have people still support me? Like, this is ridiculous. So I went back, I found that letter to the editor and I tagged it. And I just said, I'm not ashamed of this anymore. Like, nice. Bobby Ryan can do this. So can I. And then that kind of just was this elephant off my chest. And I was just like, well, that felt great to talk about myself. How do I keep doing this? And with the link of someone well-known using their platform to share a story that's stigmatized and show people it can happen to anyone, how can I keep doing this? And I was just like, well, I'll start like everyone else in 2020, I'll start a podcast and talk with well-known sober people. And that's kind of just how it started. And obviously, like, anyone who's hockey related is like, oh my God, I love you. So I've talked to Theo Fleury, Mark Parrish. Oh my God, he was so amazing, Mark Parrish. Dave Shand. I have like obviously an affinity for the hockey ones, but I talked to like musicians, people from Bravo, all sorts of people. And it's just kind of spiraled into this wonderful unpaid hobby that helps me in my recovery and helps make these wonderful connections around the world. So that's kind of how it all started. And then, with Austin, I saw online one day that he was celebrating, like the Sens posted something about how he was celebrating a sober birthday. And I thought, yay, like kind of full circle, he's talking about it. He's open about it. Oh my God, like I need to tell him, I am too. So I went out to the game that night. I actually messaged you guys and was just like, do you know if Austin's, going to skate tonight? Because I was going to that game and it looked like he was. And so I was like, well, perfect. I'll spend 3 hours making this sign and for the warm up, and then miss the warm up because of insane traffic.
That'll happen.
Posted it online and I said, it said, hey, Austin, I'm sober too. And had the number and it went to
1712, not 1712 days. Not a big deal. I'm looking at the photo right now.
Yep.
Yeah. And it got back to him. And then they contacted me and said, you want to come out to another game and have a chit chat with him? And I was just like, oh my God, yes, I would. And that's kind of how that happened. It was just it's so wonderful when someone who has a platform is willing to talk about something that's kind of, still a bit, maybe not everyone thinks it's okay to talk about, or that it's like sort of secretive or whatever, and to just talk about it normally. And that's the whole goal of my podcast, just be like how I am right now, normally, lightheartedly talking about something that is kind of stigmatized.
We'll get back to our chat with Becca in just a moment, but first, a quick word from our friends at BetOnline. Now is the time. You got the National Bank Open. Get some tennis in you. I actually love putting a little wager in on some tennis. Serena Williams just announced her retirement, so I'm all in on her, both at the National Bank Open and going in to her final U.S. Open. Baseball is always a fun play if it's an afternoon game, but we're all setting up for hockey season. Futures are there. You can get all your information. It's all available to you at BetOnline. There's no better place for your props, odds, lines. You can bet on literally anything. Head over to betonline.net and take control of what your sports watching experience is. Just head over there right now, or you can even use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. It's betonline.net, where the game starts. All right, now back to our interview with Becca. I feel like Austin Watson's a pretty outgoing guy. What kind of conversation did you have with him that night?
I honestly blacked out from what I was doing. I was so thrilled to be meeting him. He was so nice to I brought the kids, the boys awesome. Loved meeting him. He was just so kind. We just talked about being able to share our stories and feel that connection, because that's kind of ultimately what it comes down to, is that you have, when I talk to people who are actors or musicians or former athletes or whatever it may be, these are people who are, have wildly different lives than I do. But this thing brings us together and puts us on the same playing field. And we have this sort of connection that, it's just such a nice feeling to know what someone else has kind of lived or goes through as well. And he was so down to earth, so kind, so generous. I got a signed stick that's definitely in my bedroom.
Under the bed in case any burglars come, you just hit them with the 1-2. That's nice.
That's definitely the spot for that. And I'm looking at your post right now, Becca, the picture you shared with Austin Watson, and I'm sensing a common theme in all the things you've discussed so far. And that's the quote you have here saying, "It's said the opposite of addiction is connection." And you've mentioned that word a lot of times here, connection. Matthew Joseph with the French community, Chris Neal, a connection with you, your connection with Austin Watson, us connecting right now. And that's the thing. I think it's a great thing. What you're doing is you're showing everyone that no matter whether you're a mom in Gatineau or you're a hockey player or whatever, everyone can have these connections and be relatable and help support each other, right? So I think what you're doing with the podcast is incredible, and we're really thrilled and honored to hear your short story and share it. And it's great to have someone like you in the Sens community.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. And that really is that. It's connection, right? I mean, you could create the connection within the community of, hockey, the hockey Twitter side of things, the recovery side of things, and just be able to, it's brought me so many wonderful new people in my life to be able to share something that I used to be really afraid to talk about. So I just, to be now talking about this and it's mixed with hockey, my life is complete.
What advice would you give to someone who's trying to get sober but hasn't been able to get there yet?
not to do it alone and not to feel like there's anything wrong with you. I spent a long time wondering and worrying about, why can't I just drink like everyone else? And why can't I just, not think about this all the time? And what's wrong with me? And I kept it to myself. And that makes me like, I feel like I could cry thinking about all the years I held this worry to myself. And then when I even got sober, I kept that a secret for so long too. And just whether you stop drinking because you have a problem with alcohol and drinking, or you just don't want to drink, it's okay to say you're sober. Bumble, one of the many apps I'm on, has the option of saying sober. And so I clicked that because like, I'm not ashamed of this. And like, if someone has a problem with that, that's a them problem. So just to not be worried about like what other people think, do something for you, but don't do it alone. There's so many great people, connections, programs out there that you can do this with support. Doing it alone should not be the option. Anyone can reach out to me if they have any questions too. I'm always there to chat because that's the last thing I want is someone feeling alone in this.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Everyone's stronger together and stronger as a community. You mentioned a bunch of people you've had on your podcast. What's kind of been the highlight for you since you started this? What's been your kind of biggest moment for your podcast?
It's funny because it wasn't an episode that I did. It was, I got to thank Bobby. In a year ago, I connected with him and I just said like, I started this because you shared your story and this is why this has come to be. And he didn't want to be on an episode, but we were able to have a Zoom and I was able to talk with him and then do my own episode about that conversation.
Yep.
Be able to have that full circle come back and be able to tell him like how he inspired me to come out of the shadows and do this. Like it changed my entire life. My entire life changed because I talk openly about this now. Like everything changed. So I really wanted him to know that. And so I was able to thank him. And that's all. That was like one of the best moments I've experienced. But, all of it is, there's no standout person. It's also wonderful to have these connections and feel like, again, they can be someone who's lived a totally different life than me, but we have this in common. And it kind of makes you feel like, okay, like I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Who is the Unashamed Alcoholic Podcast white whale? Who is the number one guest that you don't think you could get, but that you are dreaming of interviewing on the show?
Oh man, there's so many there, which is, it's great because so many people are openly talking about it now.
Yep.
I would, anyone who's in hockey, I would love to talk to them because this is why it all started. But there are some pretty big names that I've tried to go after and I don't hear anything back from, and, it's discouraging, but I had another podcaster tell me the other day, he's like, I tried for 5 years to get Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, you just don't stop. Like, you got to keep going. I'm like, all right, like, that's not usually my MO, but like, okay, maybe I need to just, not give up after one try. So there's a lot of people, that's for sure, which is great because people are talking about it.
What do they say? The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm going to be that annoying person.
No, it's awesome. Hey, once they get on and have an honest conversation with you, I'm sure everybody would leave feeling like we do. I feel uplifted having you on the show, Becca. I feel really happy that you joined us. And you know what did she say? It's a dream come true. This is a dream come true for us now. So no, we appreciate and to bring it back to the Sens and just to, finish off this conversation, I'd recommend everyone, if they're not already, following Becca on Twitter at Unashamed Alc, ALC, and then the Unashamed Alcoholic Podcast, where Becca does great work. What are your expectations this season? Are you excited to get out to a couple of games at the CTC? What are these off-season moves giving you in terms of excitement level?
I love it. I love the whole revamp. I love everything about everything right now. I'm like, I don't think I've ever been this jazzed for an upcoming season. I've got, I just feel like there's a new life being breathed into this team right now. And I'm so excited to see how all the young players kind of start mixing together. But I made a joke online the other day that my vision boarding of like bearded players was working because we got Claude. I'm so excited for that. So,
best beard in the NHL potentially.
Gotta be one of them. Yeah, he keeps it clean.
Yeah, I mean, Brent Burns has to be in the conversation, but he's right up there. He's right.
There's a reason why I love playoffs, and it's because of that.
That's awesome.
That makes sense. Now, one more for me, Becca. You mentioned you're a Belleville native. How fired up were you when the team announced they are moving from Bingo to Belleville? And have you got the chance to go to a couple games at the legendary CAA arena?
I was so excited for Belleville to get that. I just think it's just such a cool thing. And I've been, to have been growing up with the Bulls, like that was awesome. And now we've got I feel like there's some real recognition happening there. And so I was able to go with my dad and the boys to a few games. And again,
was it a few years ago?
Yeah, it was 2019, maybe.
How was the in-arena?
We might have been there. Yeah.
Was the game day production good? The camera shooting good? Were the
How about those
replays on time?
huh?
Were they good?
We had a great time. The boys loved it. And it's that kind of, we go to 67s and Olympics games here. Like I really keep everything in the mix. But it's that level of, you can get some really great hockey at that level. And, it's the atmosphere, the fan, you're super close to the action. The fans are feeling it. Belleville, like it was really good for Belleville because you can see the fans really appreciate that. And they're there. It's full. Like it's great. They love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we love this conversation. Hey, home opener, October 18th. If you're able to make it, we're going to be there. We'd absolutely love to be able to share a conversation with you in person and hopefully get to see you sooner rather than later. Again, everyone needs to go follow the Unashamed Alcoholic Podcast. And we appreciate you being a SensCentral Citizen, Becca. Really great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. Again, I'm not joking when I say this is probably one of the things I've been most looking forward to doing.
Say it again. One more time. I'm kidding. No.
This is the interview I was most looking forward to doing.
Stick taps to Becca for joining us. Really fun conversation with her. And I would implore everyone to go give her a follow on Twitter at Unashamed Alc. That's ALC at the end. All right, Pilsy, quickly before we get out of here, the Boston Bruins, they've re-signed Patrice Bergeron, ageless wonder. They've brought back David Krejci. We're about to find out if he's an ageless wonder. And then Pavel Zacha, a young up-and-coming, kind of scratching the surface type player. They brought them in. That's 3 centermen signed in one day. How much better are the Boston Bruins today than they were 2 days ago? And also, are Sens fans kind of underestimating the competition that lays ahead to get into the playoffs?
They are massively better. Anytime you can, because we were kind of looking at this team as if Bergeron wasn't coming back when we first talked about them a little while ago. And I didn't have Krejci coming back as a possibility either. And then, like you mentioned, add Zacha into the mix too. That's 3, like there's your 1, 2, and 3 centermen right there. So that definitely adds a big boost to this team. And to get them at the prices they got them, like Bergeron, I think is making 2.5. Krejci is at 1 million. And Pavel Zacha is making the combination of both of them at 3.5 million. I thought that was funny when Zacha mentioned that, the culture of everybody taking less works really well in Boston when he took more than both those guys. But there's
a bit of an asterisk on Bergeron though. If he plays
he's
10
got
games,
bonuses,
and you can only do that if you're over 35 years old. But it goes on to next year's cap, so this could be kind of
interesting.
This could be the last hurrah for this Boston Bruins team. But yeah, I think Sens fans are probably underestimating them on the top end and the back end as well. Like we know they've always had that top line: Bergeron, Marchand, and Pasternak. Taylor Hall's a pretty good player. Jake DeBrusk was coming into his own a little bit last year. And now you've added Zacha as that third line pivot with Charlie Coyle. Craig Smith's a good player. Like Nick Foligno, I don't think he can be as bad as he was last year. There has to be a touch of a reboot from him. And where I think really makes a difference is Hampus Lindholm, to me, is a hell of a player and a steadying presence to play with Charlie McAvoy. So in goal, I think just like the Sens, like it's a bit hit or miss. I like Jeremy Swayman, but Linus Ullmark, I'm kind of hot and cold on. Now, where I still see the opportunity, though, is with the injuries. Like no Brad Marchand and no Charlie McAvoy for the first 2 months of the season. The first 2 months of the season just got even more important for the Ottawa Senators.
Especially when you're looking at who is their home opener opponent.
Hmm.
It's the Boston Bruins. So
Wow.
that's nice they get to play them without McAvoy or Marchand, but
Yep.
don't take them lightly. That's still a damn good team without those two guys.
You think they're clearly last of the big four, like the four that made the playoffs last year between Tampa, Florida, Toronto, and Boston? Do you still think Boston is the most vulnerable of those four in the Atlantic?
Yeah, I would say, well, I don't know. Once those guys come back, I would say they're a stronger team than the Leafs.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was Florida too. Like I think Florida got worse this offseason. You
Yeah,
see Colin White's wearing number 6, by the way, just an aside. That's wild.
yeah, that is weird. And yeah, Florida did get worse, but they're still a really good team.
Yeah,
Like, just
fair.
you can't just think of
Fair.
all the subtractions. Just take a look at their roster and what the lineup looks like. But that
I mean, they won the
decor-
President's Trophy.
yeah, that decor is tough now without Uyghur, so that'll be.
I mean, they
interesting to
added
see how
Mark
that
Stahl.
goes.
Come on.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
They actually brought in Eric Stahl on a PTO. That was another random move. But they still have Barkov, who's going to contribute a lot. And then Ekblad, you got to think he's
Matthew
going to be
Tkachuk,
healthy.
heard of him?
Yeah, once or twice. Yeah. They're still going to be good.
Yeah.
But to me, I just think Boston's a good team. But Ottawa, like they made their additions, so I still think a defenseman is needed.
Yeah.
We'll see. We know Pierre Dorion does like to make moves near the start of the season. He's done it before, so we'll see if that's in the cards. And of course, Simmer's going to stir the pot on his birthday. So happy birthday, Sean Simpson. He tweets out this morning that there is actually, I want to read it word for word here. Let me pull it up because you know when Simmer stirs the pot, it's worth doing a little something. Oh, I got to go through a million happy birthday quote tweets because replies don't work for Simmer.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I almost feel like I have to search. Okay. Quote. The feeling is that Chychrun will be moved before training camp. Sens are in the mix with other clubs, but the ask is ridiculously high. Smart that Dorion is being patient, so let's see how it plays out. On a scale from Simmer Potster to Simmer Report, where would you put this on the old range?
Real far on the pot stir because
Okay.
the Arizona Coyotes are not in a rush to do anything.
No.
Right? Like, they're going to keep that price real high, and they're saying, hey, we got a couple years of this guy on a good ticket, and until someone reaches what we're looking for, you guys can all you can wait. We'll wait. So I don't think, unless Pierre Dorion decides to not dip his toe in, but dive in head first to whatever the trade offers are, I don't see anything happening here.
Yeah.
At least on the Chychrun front. On other defensemen, possibly, but the Chychrun one, the Coyotes are not going to rush this at all. Like, that's their prize trade piece right now. So
Yep, 100%. I mean, they could just as easily name him captain and call it a day. Like he's that good of a player and that valuable. 3 years left on his deal, making $4.6 million. So we'll see how that all plays out going forward, Pilsy, with the Arizona Coyotes and Jacob Chychrun. All right, for more defensive talk, head over and check out our friend Ari, who's at Carty CL. He put out an article this morning about other defensive options. He says, I worry that out of desperation, Sens fans are just clinging to Chychrun. Yeah. Well, he puts out a few other names, and obviously none of them are as sexy as Jacob Chychrun, but they obviously have a part to play. And the Sens' right side of their decor beyond Artem Zub is pretty suspect. So we'll see what can transpire if it's not Chychrun. So go check that out from our friend Ari. Also, Locked On Bruins, they're having a good time there with all their re-signings. Yeah. I'm excited to talk with Ian. We'll get into it with him. But are they really regressing? Because I feel like we've been saying that for a couple of years now with the Bruins. And
I think we've been trying to will it into existence, Ross. I don't know if either of us really believes it, but we're trying to push it.
Oh, man. On that note, though, you mentioned the home opener. Ticket will be available next week through the link. We're going to do the same style that we did against Montreal. So everyone just goes into the link themselves. They buy the tickets, but they're all going to be in section 319 and 320. So those are the two sections that we're all going to be in. It's going to be a great time. Can't wait for that, Pilsy.
Yeah, it's going to be all time, especially for the home opener. Like, if any of you guys missed last year's event that we did up against Montreal, you're in for a real treat because the vibes are high. Sens fans are the best around. And for everyone to get together and meet up off of Twitter is a great feeling. And I think as far as I'm concerned, everyone had a great time. I know I had a great time. So we're hoping to meet more of you guys and to have this be a regular thing, because it's a blast.
Absolutely. Well said, Pillsy. That's all for today's show. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. We'll be back on Friday with an interview I'm not allowed to tease just yet. But next week, already recorded with Igor Sokolov. Fantastic.
Yes, so good.
This might be our 36 minutes we went with him. So that's it. We're just going to let Igor take the reins. Then we got Angus Crookshank later on next week and a whole lot more. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.